Welcome to Midlife Unlimited, the podcast for women who want more. I'm your host, Kate Porter, the Midlife Metamorphosis Coach, and I'm delighted to be joined today by my episode 55 guest, Nellie McQuinn, founder and CEO of Away Wills, who is also episode 50 here on YouTube. So, whoop, whoop, whoop. And we're giving a taste of our full audio episode that's a you listen to your podcast, how to make sure your will reflects your wants. Sounds scary, it's not. Welcome, Nellie. It is fabulous to have you here. And we're going to lift the lid on some taboos, aren't we?
We are indeed. Thank you for having me, Kate. I had such fun recording the podcast. So I'm really excited I get to come back and do a little bit more chatting with you.
Well, there's a phrase that sticks out, and there's so many golden nuggets, and you share your beautiful story of why this resonates. Because we won't go and listen, but Nellie's background is entertainment and wonderful achievements in that area. But this was a new venture a couple of years ago. But you are so passionate about this. If a taboo is something that the thought of making a will can be scary. It makes us morbid, makes us think, God, we're going to die.
Yeah.
Our mortality. How do we get around
Look,
that?
I think so. It's a funny one. You're totally right. And there is this conception that, and I think it's a misconception, that writing a will is, it's one step closer to dying. You've got one foot in the grave, and a lot of people don't want to deal with it. But ultimately what I say is you can talk about death, you can plan for death without dying, just like you could talk about a baby and not get pregnant. It's not, the two are not linked. Writing your will and being prepared doesn't mean, I don't believe, and I do understand there are some cultures that do sort of dabble into sort of thinking that, but I personally don't believe getting prepared is going to make the inevitable happen any sooner. When it's your time, it's your time. But I have quite a pragmatic approach about it because I deal with it every day.
I'm a big fan of the whole. I could never remember the Scandinavian word, so don't ask me to pronounce it. But I did a wonderful episode with Louise, back episode 30 something. But the whole idea of death
cleansing,
preparing, getting organized now, so that and we're not talking about people that are facing horrendous life shortening illnesses, and Mark goes out to you hand on heart. We're talking about thinking long term, but making the most of today and the days hopefully to come, by making sure our lasting legacy isn't a drawer full of, we'd say,
mess,
full of bits of paper, disorganization. And I know we're not going to be there when this will is actually read, but the peace of mind it can bring us now, knowing that all our ducks are in that row, it's huge, isn't it?
It's absolutely, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. My husband calls it our life debris, and I think that's so correct. It's just sort of the debris of life, and whether that is the paper, the drawer full of paperwork, whether it's your stuff, your trinkets, what is your life debris, and ultimately what are you leaving behind for the people to deal with? Because the thing I hate about the process of a will is that any problems with it, A, are happening after you've gone, and B,
so you can't actually go, oh, I didn't mean that.
Exactly.
Actually, that's not what I wanted at all.
Yeah, exactly. But also any sort of miscommunication or stress with it is happening at a time when you want your loved ones to be grieving and mourning and loving each other and sort of coming together and remembering you in the best way possible, not arguing because you didn't write a will and the government from 1837 has therefore dictated how your estate is distributed. I always sort of do think it's meant to be a lovely time that you are able to mourn and sit in your grief and remember the good things and experience that love. You don't want to be thinking about paperwork and, oh God, did she not? Where does it go? And so I think it's just such a gift to the next generation, or a gift to your loved ones, to sort it all out and put it all in place, basically.
Absolutely. I don't do regrets, but we don't want our will. I mean, obviously, we can't really regret it if we're not there, but we want to take out any guesswork. And we also want to make sure, because us midlife, you're not quite, well, you're getting in there. We'll allow you in the midlife The
I'm
midlife
getting there.
fold, but so many things are changing. I mean, me, obviously, I was organized. We had this conversation in our full
Yep.
length podcast. I'm
Yep.
organized, but quite a few years ago, when my little boy, who's now 24 next month,
Not
was
so little.
about 3, some
Yep.
stances have changed quite dramatically. Yeah, quite. Yeah, he's 6'2" now. And
Yep.
I don't actually. I think I know where the paper copy is, but as you said, if we don't know where, it's all very well having a will, but 2 points. Firstly, we need to know where it is physically,
Correct.
and
Yep.
secondly, if we're now midlife, going through divorce, going through bereavement, step kids,
Yep.
biological children,
Yeah.
situations, mental health issues as well, that we can bear in mind, because you talk about, I
Yeah.
forgive me, I forget the name of it. A trust, was it, that we can set
Yeah.
up?
Yeah, so that's a vulnerable person's trust that you can set up if your children or whoever you're passing to
Yeah.
have some sort of vulnerability, and that can be alcoholism, drug dependency, it could be autism, it could be anything.
But this is all peace of mind for us as well, isn't it? By
Awful.
doing that.
Yeah, and I think you've touched on some really interesting life milestones that I do think sort of congregate in that midlife area.
Yeah.
Divorce is a big one. I feel very strongly about this. If you are separated and going through the process of divorce and you were to die without a will, you are still legally married, so therefore your estate goes to your spouse. It doesn't matter that you're going through a bitter divorce
And
until
this
you
is
sign on that
horrendous.
dotted line.
You
It's
as
awful. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, it's awful. And we find that disproportionately, I think because the kids grow up, they move out, that divorce happens a lot in that midlife sort of bracket. You mention blended families, stepchildren. You know, if you were to pass away without a will and it all goes to your spouse, and you've got children from a previous marriage, and then your spouse was to pass away after they'd remarried, your wealth is going to the new wife or husband, not down to your children, because they are not blood related and are therefore in the eyes of the law not relevant. So there's so many things, like you said as well, you know, your children are growing up, you know, are they getting married? Have they got grandkids? Do you just need to reassess? I spoke to someone yesterday who his grandmother wrote a will when he was the only grandchild and didn't update it, and ended up having 17 grandchildren. And so it was an absolute mess, because everything went to him and there were 16 other people going, hold on, we were grandchild as well. And it, you know, just wasn't updated. We recommend every 3 to 5 years, just have a look at it. Just check
Something
it's
else.
still okay.
It's not just the carp of the physical death cake, shall we call it? I don't know where that phrase came from, but I'm going to
Love
use
it.
it.
I'm
But
going to use
it's
it too now.
also the death cake. Brilliant. I'm inspired. I really anyone would think I used to be a journalist. But it's the emotional side of things that I can
Yeah.
picture in that situation with the will reading. How did the 16 people who were the 16 grandchildren who weren't mentioned feel? Did they think
Yeah.
grandma didn't love me?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's so
Sounds
true. And
daft,
so
but
no, it
it's such
doesn't. Yeah,
an emotional time.
it is an emotional time. And so often I will say, very often you get the mum will leave the engagement ring to the daughter or the wedding ring to the daughter. I get that a
Yeah.
lot. That's fairly standard, right? And what I always say is, if there's a son, the dad never thinks about the wedding band, because it's not the chunky jewelry, is it? It's not the big diamond. It's probably not insured. You know, it wasn't a big moment down on one knee. It's not quite part of the family history
Well, I
in the
think
same
also
way.
it's quite a newish thing for men to
Yeah.
wear wedding
Yeah.
jewellery.
But what I always say is, look, you know, your kids, you've got a boy and a girl, they're going to open the will and the girl gets mum's, you know, wedding band and her wedding jewelry. Like, do you want to think about leaving the wedding band to the son? It doesn't matter if it's not worth anything, you know, it doesn't matter if it's not sparkly. It's just that moment of opening and going, oh, your dad thought of me, you know, like
Or a
it's,
watch or something like
yeah,
that.
exactly. So 100%. It's opening that will up and just going, I was remembered, even if it has no value whatsoever. It doesn't matter. It is that sort of emotional value.
Yeah, it's the thought, isn't it? And obviously, we're going to be giving your details. They're on the show notes for our episode. They're on the
Yes.
Midlife Unlimited podcast website, but I'll ask you to give them in a bit. But there's something else I really want to talk about now, if you're all right for
Yeah.
time,
I am.
because we almost ran out of time on the podcast because I could talk to you all day. We cover so much.
We
But you
did.
just mentioned there, and I thought, oh, Kate, we wanted to talk about this more. The stories behind, because the will is the
Yeah.
black and white, isn't it? The will is
Yeah.
the factual, this for so and so, this for so and so. But everything
Yeah.
comes with a story. It's like the 3 questions I ask at the end of every episode. So tune in to the audio to hear Nellie's answers to those. But each ring or book or vase or anything that we haven't decluttered or death cleansed, and we've
Mm,
actually decided that someone else, we'd like to leave this to and bequeath it to, if that's the right word.
yeah.
Why? And there is a
Yeah.
way to do that, isn't there?
It's
Because the
so
will, you don't do that in the will, do
Mm,
you?
yeah, so the will is very black and white,
Yeah,
and I feel really strongly about storytelling and people's stories. I think it's my
yeah,
media background and production.
yeah.
I'm always passionate about sort of that legacy in terms of emotion. What does it mean? My grandfather was a wonderful storyteller. I just grew up around that.
Mm.
And I was meeting such brilliant people and drafting their wills, and they would tell, I go into their houses and I have a cup of tea and they tell me these brilliant stories, about the family Bible that's, from the 16th century, and
Mm.
has traveled through the ages, and, and it's fascinating stories. And then I go home and I'm like, my family Bible, I got 3 words, it's just an insult to this kind of amazing story about this item, whatever it is. And a lot of times the item doesn't have any currency, it's not worth anything,
No,
but
no.
emotionally it's priceless. So yeah, I'm building an app currently. I'm currently fundraising to do it, and that is to allow people to write their wills, but alongside that tell their emotional stories and their legacies. So you're not just saying my family Bible, it's in the will, it's legal, but then you've got this place where you can upload photos and memories and
Well,
videos
you
and voice
mentioned the
notes.
beautiful
And
example of your daughter's first steps, for example. And
yeah,
if we don't signpost where this information is, where these videos and
yeah,
photos are, that we took the time to arrange them, to curate them, to store them,
yeah,
and
we've
then
lost that. It's sad because we used to, as a
yeah,
people, we'd hand down the sort of that legacy. We'd hand down the photo album, and then you'd
yeah,
have that, like you said, it was curated. But that also goes back to, you had 24 shots a film, right? You'd literally take 24 photos, then you'd go off and you'd wait for them to be developed, and that was like, that cost money. And you'd,
keep your
oh,
fingers
I hope
crossed that the flash
I've got
work.
some good ones in there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Whereas honestly, I've probably taken 24 photos of my son alone before breakfast. It's free. I don't pay more. The downside is that I don't value them as much as I did when I was a kid, when you got that one perfect shot, because I just can do it again, or I'll do it tomorrow, whatever, it's instant. So yeah, part of my calling to this industry was, I thought there's a couple of 100,000 photos between my husband and I on Google Photos of my children, their first steps. I can picture it. I know roughly what date it is. I could find it. But if he and I went down in a plane crash, touch wood, it doesn't happen. But
yeah.
my brother, my mom, that none of them would know how to access the Google Photos. So then their history, their childhood is suddenly not complete. I hate that thought. So yeah.
No. I'm completely with you, because I say what you're doing, and obviously this isn't just a hard plug for Nellie's services, but I just love how you're raising awareness, you're making it sexy, you're taking the lid off that taboo, because ladies and gents, if you're watching too, Midlife Unlimited is all about having those conversations. So
Mm,
let's not sweep it under the carpet. Let's have the conversation over a coffee, over a glass of something cold, whatever works for us. And
yeah.
then when it's done, we can tick it off that blinking to-do list, and we can
Yeah.
get on on with living, fingers crossed, life to the max. Because
Yeah,
it's
and
that simple, isn't it? It's a
it
it's not
really is.
it's not brain science.
It really is. And also, I will say, I draft wills from people in their 30s up to their 90s. I've drafted wills literally people on their deathbed, so like in hospital, getting their will finally sorted. And I can tell you without any doubt that people who are where death is very tangible, they're much older, or they're terminally ill. When death is tangible, it's a very different experience. When you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and it's a little bit further away, you haven't been to the sort of all of those funerals from your friends, coming through. It's a much more pleasant experience. It's joyous, like we have a laugh, and what do they want, and how are you going to plan your funeral? And it's just a nicer process, because it's not in your face. And that's, I think, the older you get, and I don't call midlife old, I'm talking sort of
Yeah.
80s, 90s,
Oh yeah.
that's when it
A
becomes
natural life,
terrifying.
life
Yeah.
expectancy, lifespan. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just nicer. Do it when it's nicer. Otherwise, you've got this emotional weight that I think then does make it sort of very real and heavy. There's a heaviness to drafting your will if you're in your 80s and 90s. There's a brevity when you are in your 40s, 50s. It's just nicer.
Yeah. And as you say, it's getting it done,
Mm.
and then whether you set yourself a little reminder or every few years or so, just touching base with yourself, with your will,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah, and look, that's one of the reasons. Obviously, I'm a will writer, so I always advocate doing it through a professional. But that is another reason, whether me or not, that doing it through a professional, they'll touch base with you after 3 to 5 years. I put my clients in the system, so after 4 years, I just sort of go, "Hey, I just wanted to check: is this still applicable? Has anything changed?
Yeah.
Any big life things happened?" It's just that nudge, because otherwise 20 years goes past and you're like, oh God, I've not thought about that, right? As you yourself, Kate. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Life is difficult. Life is full on. I get it. No one's thinking about it. So yeah, if you do it with a professional, they'll just nudge you and say, hi, just checking in.
Well, I say, if
Yeah.
you've enjoyed our taster conversation today, then go and check out our full-length episode. There's so much in there. I could have talked to you all
We
day.
could have absolutely chatted all day.
And that's available now, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and via the Midlife Unlimited podcast website, where you'll find Nellie's details. But tell us again, how can people get in touch with you?
Sure. So the best thing is email info@awaywills.com. Awaywills.com is the website. On socials, Away Wills. So just reach out in any of those platforms and you'll get through to me. And, I'd love to talk. I as you can probably tell, I do love to have a good natter about wills. So I will offer anyone a 30-minute chat for free. There's no obligation. And we just have a chat about it and see what you need. And if you want to progress, you can. If not, then you're at least a little bit more informed. That's my big goal, just to educate and inform.
Well, that's what I love about you. I mean, and listen to the episode. There's so much more she's doing. She's campaigning for changes to the law. This woman's a walking miracle. She really is. And it's wonderful, wonderful having you in the Midlife Unlimited world. And if you'd
Thank
like to
you.
find out more about me, come and connect with me. All my links are in the show notes on the Midlife Unlimited podcast website, where there's also details of my coaching offers, particularly if you're fancying becoming a podcast guest or even launching your own podcast. I've got my Pop Your Podcast Cherry one-to-one offer. Yes, you heard that right. Pop Your Podcast Cherry. So, Nellie, thank you so much for joining me today.
A
It's always a
pleasure.
pleasure to chat to you. This wonderful woman's been at a business show all week, and she's actually taken time today when she should be putting her feet up and cuddling her kids. No, she's
No
talking to
rest for
us.
the wicked. No,
No,
I'm still passionate.
absolutely. Keep pushing through. Coffee and
Yeah,
cake will win.
exactly.
So thank
That's
you
it.
for watching today. Thank you for watching episode 50 on YouTube. Here's to 50 more,
50
500
more.
more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Woohoo. Here's to being fabulous and flourishing together, and to living midlife unlimited. Thank you, Nellie. It's been a pleasure.